recently, one of my students was making a comment about the need for protection. And she mentioned how the door that protects the house, the gate, the main gate of the house, or the alarm system that some people install. In fact, if you're living anywhere in the world, you need to have some type of an alarm system, right? Or at least a padlock, something to close the gate to protect the inside from the outside. So she mentioned how today it's more important to have that kind of a protection installed in your eyes and your senses because of what we're exposed to. And of course, not just today, it's always been the case, but today we have a world where they're night and day working to invade your defense system. Society today, if you're living as in the world, by the way, you're part of society. Whether you're living alone in the desert, you are connected to society, because gone are those days where you went, under the radar type of a thing, that they would say, okay, he's off the grid. Well, if you need any part of society, any aspect, any assistance, any involvement of society, even if it is mailing something, even if it is getting something, something happens in the other side of the world and you're affected here in the woods. We all are exposed if we're connected to the digital cloud, if you want to call it that. And with that, there is tremendous danger that is ever present today. Just like closing the main gate of the house, of the building. When I was a teenager, when I used to work in jewelry as an apprentice, back in those days, these were skills that people, especially during summertime, parents did not just have their kids be idly spending their time or just playing soccer. I mean, some parents, some families did, of course, but my parents didn't. So I had to make a choice as to what type of a job or skill set I need to have. So I agreed to work in the jewelry industry in the form of apprenticing to become a goldsmith, person who makes jewelry. And then, because of my skills in drawing, etc., I found a way to make a living selling designs. So I had to sell those to manufacturers, to companies, to places where they used to sell, jewelry set in, diamonds and all precious stones. So it was very important for them to maintain security. I remember some of the manufacturers that I used to go to, or companies I used to go to sell my designs to, that I had to go through, in some cases, 3, maybe once even 4 different gates. The main gate from the, separating the place, the building from the street. And then you go in, there's another room. Everywhere there's cameras. And then there's windows where you have somebody from the inside, bulletproof windows, one-sided mirrors. And then you go to another, and then you wait, and then you finally go in. But what they were doing is they were sifting what is dangerous from what is safe. That's a protective mechanism, because they didn't want to have anyone dubious, any dangerous elements to be presented, to be at their doorstep, because they are protecting the most valuable part of the company, which is extremely smart and necessary to run the business, to run the health. Now, one time I remember when I was 13 or 14, there was a jeweler, diamond dealer. This was in Lebanon. And there was a man who used to come in, and he was very, his name was Paul, I think. I was a kid. And he was already an old man. He was a grandfather. But he was extremely wealthy. This I know because of the person that I used to work in their own goldsmith manufacturing. That old man used to come and sometimes he would come to collect because he would give things on loan, and so people would come or had debts, so he would come and they would pay him. So he was a very grandfatherly figure. Every once in a while they would have new, let's say, requests for for diamonds, and they would give me, my boss basically would give me a list of things to go get. This is how many carats of diamonds, emeralds, this and that, or I've already given the order, so you just need to go and collect. Okay, so all of it done by walking. So I would walk in the city and I would go, and at first they took me once or twice there personally to show me and to introduce me to them officially, to the guard, to the secretaries inside, to the other guy, and each one of these had a gate. And then finally to go into Mr. Paul's office and to get the pouches, we call them cachette. Cachette means like the tiny little folded packing of paper, double, triple layers where you have the precious stones. So there was a lot of trust, and but I was a kid. I was 13 years old, and so it was my thing. So I would go there, and I knew each person, and they would say, hey, you, come here, you. So are you going to go and continue your education? What are you planning on studying? All these things. So it was a relationship. I was the kid. I wasn't the only one, of course. There's other manufacturers back in those days who would have people of my age because it was common. That's the artisanal, basically, atmosphere where you're learning to use different faculties that you possess. On one end, you're learning how to become an apprentice, but that also involves going and getting things, being a go-between, to learn to be a messenger back when there was no Uber, okay? So you were the delivery guy also. There were no, mailman or, all that. So people would do that by hand with people that they trusted to feel protected. Until one day, I woke up and the jewelry district where I used to go to work, there was a different somber heaviness, and everybody's face was like gloomy and dark, and because it's a close-knit community, everybody knew everybody else. And what I heard was, did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear? Like, what happened? They said, a massacre. And what do you mean, massacre? This was Lebanon already. We were having basically explosions, car explosions, this and that. Israelis would blow up cars and blame it on the Christians, blow up cars and they blame it on the Muslims. So you had civil war. Meanwhile, it wasn't civil war. So we knew what was going on, but we were living in threatening situations all the time. Plus, so we're kind of aware of terror, threats, but you can't do anything about it. You just, roll with it, as they say. But what do you mean, massacre? And they said, Paul is gone. Somebody attacked. Somebody went in and there was a massacre. I didn't believe it, of course, but there was this tight, knotted feeling in my gut. And I was praying that it wasn't true. I'm 13, I'm like, even though you think you know everything, but of course you're a teenager. And then, lo and behold, I found out. And then a day later we saw in the newspapers what had happened. And there were pictures. And in the newspapers, black and white, I still remember. So somebody went in, not just one person. Apparently, it discovered that it was 3 brothers who went in, and it was somebody that they trusted, Paul trusted. So individuals from this company went in, and they used to go there a lot. So they had gone through the first gate. People knew, so they just let them in. The second gate, they let them in. The third gate, the ladies knew who they were. And then finally, the fourth one was in Paul's office. And there, I remember the picture, the black and white, Paul crouched, almost like in a fetal position, in front of his safe that was open, shot dead. Every single one of them were dead. There were at least 7 to 11 people who were killed. Nobody was left alive, including those women. Even remembering it, my heart feels heavy because of the sadness that I recall, that I experienced. I was in tears. I wasn't the only one, but I knew these people. They knew me. But they were killed, murdered. And I was like, how is that possible? Because you have gates, you have things, alarm systems. So immediately we knew that whoever went in must have been familiar. Must have been somebody they knew, they would smile to, they would laugh to their jokes, they were buddies. And that was one of the things that people used to criticize Paul about, saying, oh, you trust everyone. And he never carried a weapon or anything like that. Only the guard had it, by the way, from what I recall. But everybody was gone. And I was in a shock, and it was truly devastating. When I see what today's adolescents are exposed to, parents don't realize when they're buying a phone for their kid, when they're buying an iPad. I remember seeing my younger brother with his 2 very young at the time daughters. They were like barely 2 or 3, I think, or even like 5, or still very, very young. And handed them 2 iPads, one for each. And they were sitting there, what are you doing, I asked, They were like, yeah, we're building a dress for these. So it's a girls or kids app program where you have characters, and then you're doing makeup, and then you're doing this. So slowly they get you in. We don't realize that each of these industries have armies of psychologists. It's called industrial psychologists, unless they've changed it. It used to be called that. Where they figure out, now it's AI, it's a program, so they don't even have to hire psychologists per se. AI is doing, because it's all algorithms. And they will infiltrate your gates, your protective defense system. But unfortunately, the one that I'm talking about requires more than just cameras, because it requires your awareness of the danger of really losing the, if you have it, sanctity of your own family. If you have it, or if you have already lost it. Because many families, it's stunning how, not in a good way, I use that term, the respect towards parents is gone. Already you have the invasion from the outside, from society, that wants to take away the roles of a father and a mother. They normalized being a single parent. They even call that single parent, which is basically a term that could go for both. So it's an umbrella term. And then they turned away from calling a man in that relationship the father or the husband, and they called it a partner. Same goes for a woman. The term woman has become like something that people look down upon. I'm talking about academic circles. I'm talking about, in fields of enterprises where people are supposed to be educated. So they have gone through the system of education that is robbing people of their common sense. That's how we ended up where we are, especially in some states in America, in the United States, where there is no any common sense left. Now there are some people waking up, and many people have left already such states because of the ridiculousness of these bleaching out society of anything of value, of common sense, where people are like, yeah. I remember females, students in my classes, when I was already a teacher, high school teacher, I used to also go to study to get my degrees in psychology, etc. So I remember how certain women would look at one or two students, female students, and you could almost feel like it's an insult to be a woman, a mother, a home builder. Oh, you're so, wow, great that you're actually trying to improve your situation by becoming a professional. As if what she was doing, or any other woman would be doing as a mother, was like copying out, was like something less than. Meanwhile, it is one of the most, if not the most, important tasks in society. Because the society is now, the future and the health of society is resting upon your shoulders. If those 2 or 3 brothers had actually gotten proper education, disciplined by their mothers and fathers, they would not have committed those crimes. By the way, it turned out that those 3 brothers that I was mentioning, the murderers, had been coming, and they would spend time with Paul, and they would bring flowers for the ladies, they would buy, they would bring food, so they were coming and going a lot over the years, or at least the months prior. So there was trust. And they would, later on, they had a plan apparently to come in and shoot every single one of them and kill them. You have to have a heart that's dead to be able to do something like that. And now we are dealing with something that it's a whole mechanism. Because AI, they keep talking about AI as if it's something that is happening on its own. Some people are even calling it that, and that's not true. I don't care how sophisticated AI gets in predicting human reactions, because that's what they're going to predict, okay? They're not going to predict responses. It's just a bunch of calculations. But in order for you to make a response, you need to shut yourself from the AI environment. It has to be your space, your time has to be kept yours as much as possible. So you have today grandfathers who sit there with their cell phones and watch porn or gamble. You have grandmothers who are being exposed to things that they would never have in their wildest dreams be interested in. But over time, you are being trained. Just like in the case of domesticated animals thousands of years ago. Our ancestors would train a wild horse to become a tamed, domesticated animal. The goats, for example, or things, we are being coaxed by us, actually, when you think about it. We are allowing, let me rephrase that, we are allowing ourselves to be wide open. In the beginning, I was saying how it's important now for us to realize that we all need protection. No one is immune. No one is immune. Years ago, I used to think that it's just kids and adolescents that we have to protect and watch out for their, safety, this and that, in every way. But that's no longer the case, because you have the homemaker, the housewife, being exposed to nefarious influences. And we're not talking about just some online company, a business that's trying to get your few bucks by selling you this product or that product, and by emailing you, hey, buy this, buy that. It's no longer that. They're coming after your safety. They're coming after your sanity. They're coming after your moral values. They're coming after your integrity. They're coming after you in ways that you have not even thought of. They've done that, they've been doing that for decades, over a century in fact, by separating the family. When they started the whole feminist business, it was a business to tax half the population, but also to divide the family. So because they couldn't access it. Inside the household, they didn't have access. So they only had access to the father at the workplace. The mother was taking care of the children, their upbringing, their safety. But they couldn't do it in a linear fashion. They had to do it in a multi-pronged attack, multi-system, multi-level attack. And it so happens that they already had something in the works, as they say, and that was called the tube, the television. So now they had a foot inside the house. They were implanting seeds of poisonous seeds inside people's minds, specifically women, and because they came up with this whole thing, oh yes, there's an inequality between men and women, men and women, men and women. Why shouldn't you have the ability to go ahead and do this with your life, do that with your life? Meanwhile, there were women, I know, I've met them, I've spent time with them, learned so much from them in their 90s, who had done that. Gotten their bachelor's degrees before World War II. Okay? When men were not even going, they didn't have, but that's, when a person wants to go get educated, that should be provided for them. Any kind of independence, but we should not come in and infiltrate the family and separate them. But that's what's been happening. So they divided, and then they're attacking the family structure. They've been doing this systematically to the point where it became, as I said, normalized for a single parent to be a single parent. To take away the roles of, let's say, a father to end up doing laundry, cooking, this, that, while the mother was going. And some people I met over the years, they said, what's wrong with that? That's a great thing. Well, yeah, individually at times, but we are genetically not designed for such things. The brain, the hormones don't function like that. You're messing up the whole, now you're affecting even the psychology. Okay, you are creating a breed of misfits. You're creating, if it was a computer system, you're putting in bugs into the system. You're toxifying society. And then they say, well, how come we have so many boys who don't know how to be boys? Girls who don't know how to be girls. They identify like this, they identify like that. Well, because the father is not there. Because the mother doesn't know what it means to be a mother, because she's behaving like a teenager who just wants to go and grab this and that and become a CEO of this company, that, and then when you look, there's no feminine element left in her. She's far worse than the guys that she ended up hating. The misogynist characters of society, those males that were toxic in their thinking, and it has nothing to do with being a male and female. Remember, because these women, these feminists, ended up being far worse in their misogyny than those men that they came to replace. Now, if you have eyes, if you have any intelligence, and you've been around the world, you've worked in professional settings, you know this to be true. This is not book stuff. This is not like peer-reviewed nonsensical articles that are out there that are completely false in many cases, to dissuade society, to misdirect society, and to create what we have in the world today, a society that doesn't function, as evidenced by the fact that we are not creating anything today. Culturally, nothing is coming out other than, technology, this and that. Well, that's not advancement. Family systems are completely, being destroyed. Because if you want to create healthy children, you need to start with the family, leaving the government out, leaving the system out. Make sure that the world that the child is exposed to is a safe one. And you as a parent, as parents in fact, as mother and father, are doing the right thing by providing safety, by celebrating your children the proper way, not telling them things and opinions from your own, political ideologies. Don't infiltrate them. They know how to handle it. If a child, an infant, is a few days old, up to, I think, a month, in some parts of the UK, the world, Western circles, they actually had children, infants, with the mom, dad being present, and they would see how well they will swim in the pool. and they would let the child, the infant, I'm not going to say tossed into the pool, but the mother would be there at least, and they would allow, and they would let the infant, and the infant would be just, the baby would be swimming beautifully. Beautifully. No one drowned. But today we have a world where every single move we make, we are looking up some YouTube video, we are looking up some digital, I don't know, app somewhere to be influenced by it, be informed by it. Well, most of the information coming in is not information at all. It is meant to deprogram us, to put a bug in the system. Every time you look at the screen of your phone, you have to be on guard. Your gates have to be shut firmly while you're looking from behind to see if this is a safe environment or not. Is there any danger present here? Any possibility? This is part of right effort. In Buddhism, there's 4 aspects to it. First, you have to shut the door. You have to completely eliminate any chances for toxic, wrong, dubious elements that have already arisen. You got to go after them. Get them out. Habits, tendencies. Well, I'm only betting $10 a week. Come on, that's nothing. It's like other people spend $50 on Starbucks or on coffee or something. I'm not doing that. So all of us have our own thing. Oh, I'm only spending 5 hours a week. Look, that's what the announcement, from the computer, from the phone came to me. Oh, your screen time has been down by 21%. See? Yeah, but how much are you still spending? Oh, roughly about 10 hours a week. But that's a week. 10 hours. That's a lifetime, What are you doing with those 10 hours? Even 1 hour, you could go walking, you could go garden, and you could laugh. Watch something to laugh if you want to watch. With your loved ones around you, next to you. Away from the phones. You don't have control. You're simply there as a vehicle to hold the device. The phone. You're simply the handle. What you're being exposed to, you have zero control over. For that, you need to apply wisdom, mindfulness to keep you in check. Because you're dealing with, I mentioned this in a recent talk, I think. The underlying factor is we come out of the factory, if you will, with the 3 poisons already installed. So you already are in the negative. You already are exposed to toxic elements. Okay? You have the 6 senses. That's what you're really working against. Your 6 senses are always bringing in as much toxicity as possible. But your mind is the filter, is the sifter. It's going to say, how is this going to help me now? Now, your thinking is not going to help you much, ultimately, because if your thinking is sullied, is dirtied, is already affected by what you already have been exposing yourself to, the news, the videos, the pornography, the gambling, the violent video games, this and that keep you agitated, the thinking is going to be purely coming from that. So there's no safety there. Now, without you knowing or your loved ones knowing, you're going to be attacking, or your boss knowing, you're going to be on edge and you're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to quit. Or you're going to go and do the bidding of the World Economic Forum, which is to go ahead and keep playing video games, eat junk food, processed food, while you're playing more video games and getting drugs. And now I think there's even the They're trying to make it legal, at least in California, to have people, just like they did with marijuana, they want to legalize psychedelic drugs. That's how stupid it has become. And I mean, it's like doing, I wouldn't say Russian roulette anymore, because Russian roulette would take at least one bullet in a 6-chamber gun, from what I recall. In some movies that I had watched, like the Deer Hunter things in the 70s. But these people don't realize the impact of what they're doing. How is that? And then they're worried about AI taking over. Don't worry, AI won't touch us unless we bring down our defenses. And you need to have your defenses up. And that means being intelligent enough to put the phone away. Nobody is going to come and figure out your algorithm for that, how to keep the mind still. Because you're not connected to the cloud, as it were. You're spending some time with your kids, with your loved ones. You're laughing together. You're going and away from the phone. Maybe there's only one phone that's with the dad or somebody, or the mom, and it's in the bag, and you're just walking in the woods, going and checking out a waterfall with your kids, and allowing their senses to be exposed to healthy information coming in. Healthy. That's how we can protect our future generations of, our species. So first part of the right effort is to eliminate, to just anything that is already bad, that has already risen, you go wipe those out. And by the second effort, you already are so alert and aware, you do not allow any possibility. So you can, some say, the first one is just basically to prevent, okay? But in this case, if something has not yet arisen, negative, you prevent it from arising. Oftentimes I give the example of closing the windows, this and that, patching up the walls so that mice and rats and pests don't come in. That's the first. And then you go after the ones that, are scurrying about and spreading toxic stuff. And now conversely, with the third and fourth parts of the right effort formula, you introduce something that has not been there, positive, the counterpart, a good quality. So as a therapist, I used to work with families where the dad comes and he just ignores the son, and he would go and watch the news. Well, already most of the day the kid has not seen you, and they've been on the phone, even at school with buddies. And now they're at home, and now they're sitting in front of the PS4 or PlayStation, and you want to pull them away. Even for dinner time, they don't want to. They don't talk to you. They're zombified. And then the parents would call me to come and do some interventions, and I would say, okay, let's work together. And I would use everything in my arsenal, therapeutic arsenal, you name it, to get the kid away. Sometimes I would succeed, but only if the parent involved themselves. So what I'm suggesting is for the parents to be involved and not to do the things or cause the child to come back with a response like this. Well, you're doing that over there. Why should I leave my game and come? You're on the phone all the time talking with this or that, or you're watching some show, or you're playing solitaire over there, and I'm over here. We don't spend time together. So create that opportunity. So you put away your toxic addiction. When you do that, the child will be impressed. It's like those families or parents who say, Don't lie, Johnny. Okay? I never want you to lie. Okay? Meanwhile, Johnny over there is listening to you talking with your friend the next morning, and you're lying. Oh, if he calls me, say I'm not here. What is that? You just lied. And Johnny's going to come back to you with a vengeance. Come back at you with a vengeance, in fact, and say, oh yeah? So there's hypocrisy there. Double standards don't work, and you can't use the card of, well, I'm the adult. No, that doesn't work. You will definitely not gain respect from Johnny or anyone, because you don't have one to begin with as a person. You're not protecting yourself through wise effort, or efforting, I like to call it. But if you do, no, I have to take this call, or no, let me handle this. Don't lie for me. Don't deceive anyone. And Johnny's there, he's listening. Next time you tell Johnny, hey, I don't want you to lie ever again. He's going to run in his memory bank to see if there were any cases where he saw you lying. And when he sees, no, in fact, you didn't, that's what's going to shut that adolescent down. I guarantee it. I've seen this many times. That's why adults have to be role models, perfect role models. But you can't be if you don't control your life, your mind. So today we all need protection, because every aspect of generational gaps don't exist anymore when it comes to our safety. Everybody, including your grandpa, grandma, the homemaker I mentioned, the mother of the house, the father of the house, the kids, adolescents, the adult children who are in the college, we all are exposed, and we all have to do our own security, handle our own security by looking at what's coming in. Your gate outside is not as important as your gate over the eyes. Turn your gaze away from things that don't bring you anything good. Don't go by your instinct and say, oh, no one's watching, no one, let me look a little bit more. Oh, that's sensually charged. No, anyone can do that. Dogs on the street do that. Dogs mate on the streets. They don't care, they don't make distinctions. There's no cheating involved in their mind, because they don't have one, in a sense. They're very instinctual, but we are more than that. And that's what they're trying to get us to become simply instinctual organisms. Pavlov's dog. By hitting a button, all of a sudden you will have this reaction. That is how you control society. That is how they're putting in things on the news that make people become irritable, divide people. So it's like a keg, a powder keg, that's with so many fuses attached to it, and there's so many hands that are holding up a lighter next to those fuses. They're ready to go. And all of a sudden you hear it explode here, explode there. They're controlling us by what they expose us to. But this is where you have control. You shut the door, and no one will be able to light any fuse. Because even the news that you listen to, depending on where it's coming from, because it's all programmed, all has nothing to do with reality. Has nothing to do with reality, whatever your politicians are saying, this, that. No. The news is just what they want to be, to control you. That way you can actually protect your mind, your body, your immediate circle, your family, your society, because you're wiser than to go with whatever they're throwing at you with this, theme of the day, topic of the day, to agitate you enough so that you can even get up and kill or close your eyes, avoid looking at the facts that there are people who are committing genocide. and then they're going and celebrating each other's, I don't know, happy moments. Well, you just killed the whole village there. You yourself gave the order. How could you even live with yourself? How could anyone call you a friend? How could anyone call you a friend? How could you be a grandfather? How? Not in my book, for sure. Because what we do has everything to do with our behavior, has everything to do with who we are as individuals. So if you have in your life individuals who are always living without any gates, any protections, any defense mechanisms, meaning whatever comes to mind, they go and do. They do the drugs, they do the alcohol, they watch the porn, they do this, and they talk without any respectful consideration. They have zero sense of shame, wise shame. They have zero sense of a healthy sense of wrongdoing, like afraid of it, doing such, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, but no one's watching. Yeah, but what if it's somebody I respect doing that? Oh, don't say that. Why though? Well, because it's ugly. Okay, then how can I go ahead and do that same thing? Because it still is ugly. Whoever does it, simply because no one's watching me do it, doesn't mean that it's okay. I can get away with it. So if you have individuals like that in your life, cut them out. Sever that connection. Chop it off. You don't need such toxic characters in your life because they don't respect themselves and they definitely don't respect you. Because what you're doing is you are relinquishing respect towards yourself when you hang out with the wrong people. And again, wrong people, we grew up thinking, oh, it's the kids, the bad kids, trouble kids in the school. No. The wrong people might be in your life already for 20, 30 years. You joke, you laugh at their jokes, or you hang out, but then you have to shape up and really act your age or behave with more responsibility and more integrity and decency when you're around your loved ones, your family. Well, what happened? What happened there? There has to be responsible behavior with integrity. And you won't have that unless your gates are closed when they need to be, to protect yourself, to protect your future. That's the only way you can protect yourself against what they're calling, the impending danger of AI. No, AI is not dangerous. It's a tool. It's a tool. How we use it, that's the main point. Because people are much more vicious than AI could ever be. The people who are running those AI systems, who never want to take responsibility, is like those people who tell the news and they say, I wonder what made those people do that. Well, did you listen to your reporting, so-called? You were lying through your teeth. That's not the facts. Go talk to the people on the ground who are seeing this. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, people are aggravated. They're enraged towards each other. So you're creating this boiling situation. It's no longer simmering, it's boiling. And that's why we need to calm down and we need to go back to our senses by first closing the gates, the doors. Any toxic, hurtful, any harmful, dangerous elements from coming in. Not saying yes when the clear answer should be no. And there is a power that the no has. The word, the statement no. And that's another thing they removed from schools. Don't be so categorical. Keep it open-ended. It's all relative. That's not true. That's not true. When someone is handing drugs to your daughter in the bathroom, you can't be relative about that. You can't be, or if somebody's coming into your house or your son's or your world through the phone, you have to be categorical. You have to turn off your phone, put it in a closet somewhere where it doesn't bother you once you come from work. Because you're there with your loved ones. And if people have landlines, they could say, okay, whoever wants, it's an emergency, they can call me through the landline. Okay? But this thing is not a smart phone. There's no such thing as a smart phone. First of all, you need to have smart people. Okay, let's work on that.